Maryland could add another blue chip prospect.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, video content creator for 247 Sports and InsideMarylandSports.com, and host of Locked On Terps for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like they used to, but the summer is still here, and FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus bet daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Maryland football should and could add another four-star prospect and another player that could transform this Maryland football 2025 recruiting class. And this 2025 class is off to a great start, but this kid could make it even better and take it to the next level. Obviously, last week we landed Malik Washington on Friday. That was Friday. It was such a great Friday. Usually Fridays are good on its own, obviously, because it's the end of the week. We're headed into the weekend, and it's usually a pretty good day, probably the best day of the week to a lot of people. But that Friday was even better than expected when Malik Washington decided to commit to Maryland, the 2025 four-star quarterback, one of the best players, one of the best quarterbacks in the 2025 class, an elite 11 guy, a guy that I think has a chance to come in right away and compete for the job, a guy that has a chance to be maybe one of the better quarterbacks that we have seen in Maryland football's history. And I know that seems like something that's all grand and something that would be really hard to obtain, and it is. It's a challenging thing. But when you look at Maryland football's quarterback history, it's not something that's like impossible to do. And I think a guy with Malik Washington's pedigree and how he is and how good of a player is, how talented he is and what he brings to the 2025 class and what he's going to be able to do for other classes, I don't think it's crazy to say that he could end up being one of the best right next to Talia. I don't know if he breaks any of the Talia records, but he could be right there in terms of what he has accomplished with Talia and maybe a couple other guys. But I'm looking forward to Malik Washington. It was huge. He was our first four-star, first blue chip prospect that we landed. But Coach Loxley and the staff doesn't look to be done. And this next kid that we could add could bring Maryland football to 2025 class to another level. And it's exactly the position that I've been wanting Maryland to land in terms of the four-star types of guys. When you land a four-star guy at the skilled positions at wide receiver, at running back, sure, it's cool. It's a really good player. It's definitely somebody that you want to land. But at the end of the day, Maryland has been really good at the skill positions. We've been good at running back. We've been good at receiver. But when you land a four-star player on the offensive or defensive line in the trenches, that's where I think makes the difference between the elite programs and just some of the good, some of the mediocre programs in the Big Ten. And I used to talk about it, I feel like a lot. Like I feel like I was talking about it every single day. When I think about Michigan, the reason Michigan was so good last year, yeah, they had some good players on the outside, Roman Wilson, and Blake Corum was one of the better running backs, maybe the best running back in the country. But the number one reason I thought was always their offensive and defensive line. So when you want to take a team to the next level in the Big Ten, if you want to be able to win Big Ten championships and compete at the highest level in the Big Ten, you obviously got to have a quarterback, which we did in 2025 recruiting class with Malik Washington, four-star kid that I just talked about, that everybody pretty much knows about. But you got to get some guys in the trenches, and we've gotten some good, solid players, some three-star recruits that are good players in the trenches. But this kid, Bryce Jenkins, is a four-star defensive lineman from Friendship in Washington, D.C. that just got crystal ball to Maryland, and I think that landing him could make a huge difference and really bring this 2025 class to the next level. It's one thing to land Malik Washington and to land the quarterback, but you still got to land some of the pieces next to Malik Washington. And this kid, Bryce Jenkins, is exactly the kind of piece that we want. And it looks like he's very heavily projected to go to Maryland now. On3 has him projected to go. 247 has him projected to go to Maryland. And it used to be different. When I checked his predictions a couple weeks ago, it used to be different. But every website besides 247 has him as a 4-star. On3 has him ranked nationally as a top 162 ranked player. ESPN has him ranked as the 146th ranked player. Rivals has him ranked number 1 in DC. So a lot of people have this kid really high up. And the interesting thing, which I'm trying to still figure out about Bryce Jenkins, is what position he's going to be at the next level. I don't know if I'm guessing he's a defensive lineman, but it's weird because on some of the other websites, they have him as an offensive tackle or offensive guard. So I'm still kind of confused exactly what he's going to play at the next level. I think that either way, he's going to be a really good player for Maryland, and I don't think it really matters. I think that either side of the ball, he's going to be a good player and really help the Terps. And in terms of just getting a guy up front, getting a guy that either is a big body up front, because this guy's a big body inside that we can stick in, that can stop the run, that can create some pressure up the middle. He's 6'5", 315 right now. Like, he's coming in, we can pretty much put him in play. Like, that's what kind of player he is. Bryce Jenkins is. He's a guy that you can plug and play right on the defensive line, and we need that help. We really do need that help. We haven't recruited the defensive line group that much, and eventually we're going to lose Jordan Phillips, and we're going to lose some of the guys up front that have been really good players for Maryland football. For last year, we're gonna lose Tommy Aking-Basote. We're gonna lose Jordan Phillips. We're gonna lose those guys, and it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt if we can't replace them, if we can't recruit behind them. But if we are able to land this kid, we have another guy coming in that has a chance to be a really good player. And it might take a season or two for him to adjust to playing. And I don't know exactly how we'll work with the portal and guys that we bring in, but we definitely are going to need help in a couple of years along that defensive line group. And he has a chance to come in and play pretty early, I think, and bring this 2025 class to the next level. I think he has a chance to be able to bring the 2025 class to the next level. I like the trajectory of the 2025 class. We have some really good players, but we don't have a player like this. And that's a big reason why I think that he could bring us to the next level. We haven't been able to land a guy like this. We haven't been able to land a guy on the defensive line. I don't remember the last defensive lineman that was this highly ranked and this highly recruited. Tommy Aking-Basote, that's on our roster now, was a 4-star when he committed to Maryland on a lot of websites. But I don't remember a guy that is this kind of big, this type of player up front. And the thing is, the fact that he can go offensive or defensive line is also a really good sign, because that means that anywhere that we want to plug him in, if we think he's better on the offensive line, then he'll do that. If we think he's better on the defensive line, then he'll do that. And he's ranked really highly at both, but he has just about every other offer you can imagine as well. He's got Maryland, of course. He's got South Carolina. He's got Bama, he's got Florida, he's got LSU, he's got Miami, he's got Michigan, he's got Penn State, he's got Wisconsin. He has pretty much every offer that you could want from him. So I'm really excited about this kid and what he can bring to the Maryland football program. He's not committed yet. I want to make that clear. But Brian Don, who is right most of the time, has put in a projection for him to land with Maryland. And there's also 4 other predictions embedded, and it looks like they're all have him to Maryland. So I'm feeling pretty good about him going to Maryland, and I'm feeling pretty good about us landing a guy like this up front because we just haven't been able to land guys like this up front and a big body that can stop the run game of different teams in the Big Ten, whether it be Ohio State, whether it be a Michigan, and now Washington's in the conference and Oregon's in the conference. You got to be able to stop the run. And a big body like this that can stuff the middle and also create some pass rush up front, I think is a really good get for Maryland football. So I'm excited to see what he can do. And I think that Bryce Jenkins, because of his 4-star rating, what he is positional value, and our need up front eventually, we're going to lose Jordan Phillips. We're going to lose King Basote. We're going to lose some of those guys up front. And I know we have a couple other guys behind them, but we're going to lose some of those guys up front. And his positional value in the position that we actually need, I think he brings our 2025 class to the next level. And he does. I forgot to say this. The last point that I do want to make, he makes his decision very soon, July 6th. So he will be making his decision this week. So that will be interesting to see. And we'll see if it's a domino effect, if we can land some other guys because that we landed Bryce Jenkins. I said Malik Washington is going to be a huge domino effect. I wonder if this is a kid that he wants to he's been a guy that he reached out to and been like, yeah, man, like you got to be a Terp. So we'll see overall what happens. Maryland basketball players in the NBA just got bags. We'll talk about that after this ad from FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever you want. All you have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime you're in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right. So Maryland basketball players just got paid. This could help Maryland basketball in recruiting and really maybe even have an underrated effect on Maryland basketball's program. When you see NBA players get paid or NFL players get paid, the college that they went to often benefits. They love to advertise on Instagram, on social media, their former players at that former program getting paid. They love to do this. All programs do it. And that's because it can help with recruiting. Maryland basketball recruits will see, oh, this guy just got paid that much. Oh, I want to go to Maryland. Then I want to go to the NBA. And that's at the end of the day, that's 99% of the guys that come to your program. Their goal is to go to the NBA. Is that realistic for all of them? No. But when they see all these different guys get paid and that they came through the Maryland football or basketball program, when they came through the Maryland basketball program first, that makes Maryland basketball programs more appealing. It makes more people want to be able to go. So I'm going to talk about a couple of players that just got bags in the NBA, a couple of former Terps. There's 3 different guys that just got paid. And I think that it's important to talk about the benefits that it has to recruiting. It's not just for them, not just for the pro level, but some of that spins back to Maryland when you see that different guys are getting paid, that different guys are on NBA rosters. And one thing's for sure, the new way in the NBA, guys get a lot of money. There's a lot of money going around in the NBA. If you see all these deals that are happening, there's a lot of different deals going on. It's a lot of money. And 3 Maryland basketball players just got new deals. We'll start with Alex Len signs back with Sacramento. I don't remember if you guys remember, but Alex Len was a top pick for out of Maryland a while ago. And I don't know how young some of you guys are. I mean, I'm pretty young, but he signs back with Sacramento on a 1-year, $3 million deal. And I think it's a solid signing for Sacramento. I mean, more. I'm just happy for Alex Len. He didn't play a ton last year, but he averaged about 9.2 minutes per game, 2.5 points, 61% from the field. He's a guy to have, a body to have, and Alex Len is signing back, and I'm happy that he's signing back and that he got a little bit of money. But the two guys I really want to talk about are Aaron Wiggins and Jaylen Smith. If you guys remember that one Maryland team during COVID, a lot of people have been talking about this. We got so unlucky with Maryland basketball in COVID. It was our best team that we've had in a while. A really good team. One of the better teams that we might have really ever. We won the regular season in the Big Ten, and we were headed into the Big Ten tournament and all that. And when March Madness got canceled, and that team had a chance to do some special things. But I bring this up because Aaron Wiggins and Jaylen Smith getting paid makes me feel better about that team. Aaron Wiggins gets a 5-year, $47 million contract with the Thunder. Like, that's pretty big time for Aaron Wiggins, who did some really good things this year. Like, look at the games played. He played 78 games. He's averaging about 16 minutes per game and is getting 7 points per game and nearly shot 50% from three. When Aaron Wiggins was at Maryland, he was just such a knockdown shooter. Every time he'd shoot, I think it was going in. His stroke was super clean, and I knew he had an NBA future because he was large, he was long, he could shoot the three, and NBA loves guys like that. He was athletic, he could jump. And NBA, you can do that. You can be in the NBA for a while if you're able to do that. But Aaron Wiggins came up pretty big in the playoffs as well, did some good things in the playoffs for the Thunder, and he was ready to get a contract extension, and the Thunder did him right by paying him. And I'm just excited for him because I know at Maryland, I wasn't sure how he would translate kind of to the NBA. I know I just talked about how he has all the different tools, but sometimes it just doesn't work out for some different guys. And there's been Maryland players that sometimes it just doesn't work out at the NBA level. But I'm watching the playoffs and I'm watching Aaron Wiggins play, and that's something that's really exciting when you can watch your guy that went to your college play at a high level that you're a fan of. And so I'm watching Aaron Wiggins play, and it's a really dope kind of thing to watch this year at the at the NBA level, not the high school level. But overall, a really good year for Aaron Wiggins. He pretty much improved on all stats while even taking less minutes per game from last year. He shot better. He shot 10% better from three. Only thing is his rebounding went down a little bit, but his points stayed about the same at about 7 per game. So Aaron Wiggins, congrats to him. That's a pretty big time thing for him to sign for 3 years, $47 million. Last player that got a contract extension that is he's a better NBA player than I think some people thought he would be, Jaylen Smith. He went rather early when he got drafted to the NBA, but I was never sure about how he would also translate. But he did some really good things with the Pacers the last year, and now he gets a bag with the Bulls, which I think is really good for him. He's been doing really good stuff last year, and the Pacers didn't play him much in the playoffs. But he had a really good year overall. He averaged nearly 10 points per game and shot 59% from the field. And his three-point shot translated this year, 42% from the three-point arc. He went from shooting 28% in 2022 to 42%. So he worked on that three-point shot, got it to a pretty good spot, and is now looking to be an impact player for the Bulls and can probably play a lot of minutes for the Bulls. And I know the Bulls is definitely in a rebuilding spot, but anytime a Maryland basketball player gets paid, I don't really care where he goes. Well, I care where he goes, but I more care about him getting his money and him being able to make an impact on the team. And he's going to be able to play on this team. It's a young team. They're looking to have a bunch of young different players. So could not be more happy for Jaylen Smith. And remember, recruits see that NBA players have been through your program, and they like to see that. And so I think it does have an impact on recruiting a little bit, and I think that's important. Maryland football lands another commit. I will talk about him right now. So Maryland football landed another commitment over the weekend, and it's a pretty big player that I think has a chance to make an impact down the road for Maryland football in Sid Stewart. So Maryland football recruiting is really hot right now. I guess this is the time for kind of everybody to commit and everyone to make the decision. The football kids like to make a decision before they actually get to their football season in the fall. A lot of them like to have it done. But this Sid Stewart kid just committed to Maryland, and it's a big commitment for Maryland football. And I think it's a chance to play down the road for Maryland. And he's an interesting type of player because he's a 6'2", 255 edge, and he's a Maryland kid. He's from the Baltimore area. He goes to Concordia Prep in Baltimore area, which is one of the DMV types of schools. I know a lot of people don't consider Baltimore the DMV, but when I think about Maryland recruiting and Maryland getting kids, you kind of got to count Baltimore as a DMV. I know maybe just in the landscape of the DMV and what counts, it's not considered Baltimore, but when I'm talking about recruiting, I kind of just generalize it more and really think about it as DC, Maryland, Virginia. But he's a kid that's from the Baltimore area, and he plays an important position at the edge spot. He's a 3-star ranked. That's a 74th edge on 247. On 247 composite, he's ranked as a 97th ranked edge. I think he needs to add a little bit of weight maybe to his frame, get a little bit stronger. But overall, I think this is a kid that has a chance to make an impact down the road. I don't think it's right away for Maryland football, but I definitely think down the road he has a chance to make an impact. And Maryland football recruiting, we're hot right now. We've landed a lot of different kids. We've landed Malik Washington. We landed Jaylen Smith, and we just landed Sid Stewart. And I'm looking at this and I'm saying this 2025 class is coming together really well. I wonder how much real, complete, difference makers there are right away. I don't see a ton of those, but when you get to campus, everything changes in terms of some guys are always better than what you expect. Some guys are worse than what you expect, but I don't see a ton of guys that come in right away and play as a freshman. But I think down the road, these guys can develop, and Sid Stewart is an example of that, a guy that can develop into something eventually. He had other really solid offers, some other Power 4, I guess you call them Power 4 offers now, with the Pac-12 being gone and the ACC, SEC, and the Big 12. He had Pitt, he had Minnesota, he had West Virginia, he had VTech, he had BC, Boston College, he had Indiana. So he had some other good offers, and he decided to go to Maryland. So I think that's a pretty good sign for Maryland football. But that Maryland official visit has seemed to do some pretty good things for Maryland football, but he went on his official visit on June 21st when a lot of different guys were there. So we'll see who else is next on the list that Maryland football could add. I know I just talked about Bryce Jenkins. Blake Woodby is also projected to make his decision soon, but he's heavily favored towards Auburn. So we'll see if that changes at all. He's a cornerback that we also really like, and there's a couple other kids that we'll talk about in the future that Maryland football really could add. But Sid Stewart is a really solid commit, like I said, from the Baltimore area, Concordia Prep, 6'2", 255, and has a chance to make an impact down the road. Ranked 35th in the state of Maryland, according to 247. And I want to make sure I talked about him as he just committed to Maryland. Now, that's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you for listening to Locked on Terps.